Welcome once again to Ena Harmony, a space to ponder on our true divine role as undivided cells or undivided expressions of the tree of life, the great I Am Love that opens a space unconditionally to non-artificial life, pure conscience and true calm, for in Him we move, live, and have our true being, as the teaching says. And recalling a little bit what I said in the previous video, we are crossing a very difficult stage, traditionally considered very severe. Coincidentally, last Sunday, my biological mom suffered a stroke, a massive stroke in the brain, and she passed away. It was very hard because my dad and I were at home with her, and when we found her, she was already in a very bad state, and doctors could do nothing. And as I said, things like this, which are very painful, must be an opportunity to bring forth the true life that we have inside, manifest our true love, always connected with the help of conscience, and keeping calm, because our true essence is the only thing that can help us digest something that our social or psychological personality, as we want to call it, cannot accept and finds it very difficult to digest. Actually, what keeps us alive is not our biology or our psyche, but something much deeper. And during the whole traumatic episode on Sunday, there was a moment that was strange. When we were in the hospital with my mom, she was already in deep coma. My sister put her hands on her forehead and she made some meditation, because she is involved in spirituality and she also likes going deeper. And there was a moment in which, as she was crying, she pointed me that my mom was beside me. She said, "She's there." Obviously I looked and I didn't see anything. I guessed that she might be watching her astral body or energy body. And my sister said, and she says that she has to leave. So at that moment I began to admit that that was the end of that stage, that her task here with us was somehow over, or partially over, because the love that she has inspired continues, so the work continues. And I'd like you to convey the message that when something like this happens, which literally shatters your heart because the pain is even more deep, we must always come back to the point in which we are connected to our true being of life, in which we feel that we are everywhere, because our true being is beyond space and time, so it's not conditioned by this limited existence. Even though it might seem paradoxical, when we feel our deep essence, there is a sense of omnipresence, I'd say. And I know that the divine spark that was manifesting through my mom obviously was connected to the tree of life, and since I am the tree of life as well, or I am an expression of it inside, then I am not separate from her divine essence. I know there is a personality which I associate to my mom or her character, which triggers many memories, but she was more than that. I hope you are understanding what I'm trying to convey. If we remain with the appearances, then we get caught in a trap, because we suffer with something which is not really real in the sense that it does not express the immortal essence, because our body is a shell that dies. And the same goes for our energy etheric body, and even the so-called astral body, which is crystallized from substances coming from the planet and even other planets. It's immortal for a period of time after the death of the physical body, and within some limits. But beyond those limits and beyond some cycles, the astral body also tends to dissolve. And what remains is the divine being of light that has been growing through those shells. As the Master said, Yeshua or Yesu, the seed must fall into the earth and die so the fruit comes forth. What must die is the shell, which represents our different bodies, which I already mentioned. And some of these bodies might remain as remnants. Some people might perceive them as ghosts or even get into contact with them. I'm not sure to what extent a divine soul remains connected to them. In many cases I think they just remain as shells that can be used even by other entities for some unknown and dark purposes. But that's something we should not worry about, because as I say, our deep essence comes from beyond the realms of illusion, and there is a kingdom of life which has many surprises that have nothing to do with our conceptions here in this world. This world is a result of modifications, is the tree of knowledge of good and bad, as you know, and it was organized by fallen architects, part of the Elohim. In this case would be fallen Elohim, because some Elohim are harmonized by the divine verb. And we must understand very well that above all laws and principles there is a single law that rules all things in this world, and that's known as the law of cause and effect. As you sow, so you shall reap. That's the principle used by the God of this world, as it is known. Paul called him so, the prince of this world, Master Yeshua said. And this is important because we should not get caught in ideas of karma, of debt. I mean, things do not happen to us because we have to pay for something we as beings of light have done. We have bodies and personalities, and we have inherited some karmic debts which in essence are not ours. To give you an example, in the case of my mom, doctors told us that strokes like this are something that derive from congenital coagulations sometimes that grow over a period of many years, and one day they simply burst. Obviously, all that's due to the stressful life in which we are forced to exist for many years. And when a sudden death takes place, in many cases this is because the divine soul that was connected to that person has decided to break the connection because the mission was over, because that was the necessary step, so it can trigger a deeper development in those around that person. That might be a reason. Another reason can be that the body can no longer endure so much energy, divine essence. As I say, our bodies are shells in which our divine life grows and grows as we express more love and more life, and we become more aware of who we are. And this world is so dark that sometimes that growth makes us suffer more than we can bear as personalities, because the divine essence can endure the whole universe, the pain of the whole universe. But our psyche, when it's slightly illumined by that divine presence, can get crazy sometimes. We all experience that sort of despair sometimes when we perceive suffering and we cannot do anything to alleviate it. Therefore, one of our essential missions here on this dark world is to express the divine verb. This means opening a space to the unconditional love, to the true force of life, to true conscience, and always from a state of calm, so we can mitigate to some extent the pain in ourselves and around. In scripture, the code for this was the union of Yud Hei Vav Hei and Elohim. Yud Hei Vav Hei is the divine verb, and Elohim are the forces of nature which can be harmonized or disharmonized. This is why it said, "Listen, Israel, souls that conquer mechanicity," because the forces of the divine verb are a unicity of forces. Yud Hei Vav Hei Elohim, Yud Hei Vav Hei Echad. And this unicity is what helps us feel connected and therefore drink from the waters of life, so we can endure the process of this painful existence. Actually, what keeps us alive, as I said, is not our biology but something much deeper. I can attest for it because I also suffered health problems from which I am already recovering. But obviously this is a constant work. I would not like to say struggle, because I think there is an aspect of letting go, of allowing, which has nothing to do with struggle. Struggle is what keeps us in a state of tension and stress. Therefore, let's open the way to our true essence. Having said this, I hope I didn't steer too much your emotional world. I know that some of you might feel surprised because you didn't know about it. But let's use this as an opportunity to grow inside, to be more aware. And I hope to continue making these videos, because I think they are part of the mission I'm already fulfilling. And I dedicate this present video to my mom, because she was one of the watchers and listeners. She was every day watching some of them, and she even made comments in the Spanish version. Actually, moments before suffering the stroke, she left one comment which I consider not as a goodbye, but as a love forever, and that's why I responded, even though she might have to listen from other dimension. And until the next time, blessings for you all. Thank you for listening.